We've talked a lot about the AI garbage dispenser in the past, and we're now going to speak with Jason Kebler from 404 Media and the 404 Media podcast about the research he's been doing into how Facebook turned from the spreader of Macedonian teenagers saying that Hillary Clinton was going to do the knockout game into products of the garbage dispenser itself. That's right. In the next section, we are exploring the gospel according to Shrimp Jesus. Jason, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So I think the first question I have, like just jumping into it, is how impressive is it on the Life Nature group that the talented son has drawn a photorealistic self-portrait?
Dude, the market for self-portraits is through the roof, at least on Facebook. Just incredible children artists drawing photos of themselves and going massively, massively viral on Facebook over and over and over again.
I think it's super impressive as well that a quintuple amputee was able to draw a self-portrait, and everyone seemed to...
And it's their birthday.
And the thing too is that squid, famously like quite difficult to draw, to get all of the like contours and the shading and everything. And yet, many of these very talented child artists are absolutely out here like nailing it. Incredible citations.
No, we are talking, of course, about just a few of the things that if you go on Facebook, which I think probably very few people listening to this, with the exception maybe of Jason, who does it for research purposes and is on the call right now, you will find not sort of people posting photos of their breakfasts or whatever, which was the stereotype of 10 years ago, well, 15 years ago.
Hypothetical, much greater breakfast.
Yeah. Well, what about a breakfast of crab Jesus?
Some say the greatest breakfast ever made.
Yeah, the most important meal of the day is crab Jesus, actually.
Eat of my body, these crab cakes.
We haven't seen crab Jesus being cooked yet in any of these AI images, but it's going to happen. Like, there's a cadence to these things where like things start going viral and then they start getting blended. And something that I've been seeing is AI-generated food and AI-generated recipes going viral on Facebook. So soon it will be like, take one shrimp Jesus and put it in a pot of boiling water.
Well, actually, there is technically no Jesus in crab Jesus. And so since 1996, manufacturers have been legally obliged to label it as Jesus-flavored crab.
Doing like crab Jesus transubstantiation stuff.
It's they have to somehow make blue wine for his blood and communion. So what we're talking about, of course, we're not talking about my talented son who has drawn a self-portrait despite being a quintuple amputee. We are talking about the thing that seems to be the dominant way of communicating on what is still kind of, is it maybe, the world's most popular social media platform.
Yeah, the stuff that is currently driving your parents or grandparents maybe insane in new and interesting ways.
So, Jason, I'm just going to ask you this. What do Shrimp Jesus, Uncle Sam Jesus, and numerous images of children being torn apart by space monsters and 20 million identical comment responses of Amen have in common? Can you set the table for us?
The content that you just described is some of the most popular content on Facebook right now. Like, if you log on and show even a passing interest in anything that is AI generated, you will start seeing these super bizarre images. And there's thousands and thousands and thousands of them. Like, I feel like I've been going crazy the last few months because I've just been looking at tens of thousands of images of like fucked up shrimp Jesus, like amputee children, a lot of Jesus with soldiers in like burnt out houses and things of this nature. And then just like thousands and thousands of comments. I've been calling it a dead mall vibes, where it's like, there once was a civilization here on Facebook, but now it's just like a couple weird kiosks keeping the lights on, and it's like they're all selling crap, more or less.
I've really been enjoying the Bible cops. This is because as I understand it, like the process by which what gets picked up and what gets generated is already sufficiently arcane that there's kind of like, it's already quite divorced from reality. But then when I see like on Facebook an AI generated image of a police car with a big Bible on the top of it just being shared to more bots, it's so perfectly surreal that I want to understand how this happened and how we got there.
Oh, everyone trusts the Bible cops.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've been doing a lot of like amateur sociology because it's like stereotypically like Facebook is full of people who love Jesus and people who love cops. And so like over time, there were, all of these viral images of cops, of AI generated cops, and all these viral images of AI generated Jesus. And it's just makes sense that at some point they were blended together and you have, cops carrying like a gigantic Bible on the roof of their cruiser.
As it should be.
Yeah, cops, all of whom individually is Jesus, kind of pallbearing a shrimp Jesus coffin.
Yeah, I'd say this is what Green Day was concerned about when they wrote the album American Idiot.
but like this content, right? Is it popular in the sense that like it's all bots and like kind of like really like low quality like scammy accounts interacting with each other, or are real people going, fuck yes, love the shrimp Jesus, I want to see more shrimp Jesus?
Yeah, so there's two types of AI generated content on Facebook. At least I've created two categories. There's like realistic looking AI, and then there's fucked up AI. So I put shrimp Jesus in the fucked up category, where you can kind of
Wait, what?
Yeah, I know. Our Lord and Savior. But
looks pretty fucking normal to a real American like me.
I was going to say, Jason, that's exactly what Martin Luther would have said if he had AI.
Yeah.
So, please go ahead.
But when I started reporting on this, like back in December, there were all these photos going viral of these like chainsaw wood carving images where it was like a guy with a chainsaw kneeled next to a sculpture of a dog. And this is an actual type of content that goes viral on Facebook all the time. There's this dude in the UK who does commissions of people's dogs. Like if you want a statue of your dog carved out of a log, you pay him like $10,000 and he'll make it. And he will painstakingly document that process and then post it on Facebook. And his images go viral pretty often. So back in December, I noticed that there were all these variations of that dog sculpture and that man, where like the dog was slightly different, or the man was slightly different, or the man had 7 fingers instead of 5 fingers, or maybe if you're a chainsaw dude, you only have like 3 fingers because of various chainsaw accidents. And these were going viral, and the comments on these were real people. It was people who had no idea that this stuff was fake or AI generated. And that's the same, like, look at this pretty picture I drew, like that sort of thing, where something is off. And if you understand AI and if you looked at AI generated images, you would be able to tell. But if you're like average Facebook user, you might not be able to tell. And the reason that I say that these were real people is because the comments are like engaging with what the image is. They're like saying like, wow, this is a beautiful dog. Like, I need to buy one. Where can I get one of these? And then like I've spent way too much time clicking into the profiles of people who comment on this stuff. And it's a bunch of images of them like going to high school reunions and funerals and all the like boring stuff that people post on Facebook about. But then over time, it's like the surreal and bizarre started popping up. And that stuff also started going viral. And the comments on these are always just like, amen, or a bunch of emojis. And these, like, I think most of them are bots. I'm pretty sure that most of them are bots. And I think it's like, obviously it's an automated, these are automated pages that are publishing this stuff. They're publishing like 20, 30 photos an hour. And a lot of them have 1, 2, 3 likes. And then there'll be one with like 300,000 likes and 5,000 comments. And I think the vast majority of people engaging with this stuff are bots, but there are also humans too.
So I think the biggest question I have is like, this is clearly a huge change that has happened on Facebook. And I think one of the threads that I'd like to follow maybe later on is how Facebook's internal like incentives, the way the company exists itself, like the algorithm, you might say, that's in the heads of the executives at Facebook, made this inevitable. That's one thread to pull. But first, I just want to pull on like, there's still people are expending, like they're spending money on AI image generations on compute. They're spending time coming up with prompts and posting them. They're spending time making the pages, and they're spending time making the bots. Like, even though this is a lot of this, what's going on is enormously interactive. interactive, excuse me, is enormously like automated. I can't, and the sort of strange directions it goes is kind of what happens when you let the computer just kind of vibe for a while and then come up with whatever. It just creates strange pastiches of things and just go the same direction for a million years like a golem. But my question is, why do this? Who is like why make
believe in crab Jesus?
Who is making money from this? Why is this being done? Why is this happening?
Yeah. So a lot of people, because these images keep going viral on Twitter and Blue Sky and like screenshots of like, look how cooked Facebook is. And the thing that people say immediately is dead internet theory, which is this theory that the internet is just bots talking to other bots. And that is true to an extent. Like there's a lot of automated and inauthentic behavior happening here, but there's a lot of humans in the loop and a lot of human time and energy being wasted on this stuff. So I think that's a great question. And the answer is basically like they are doing this to get a lot of followers to their Facebook page. And then at some point they pivot the content. Either they pivot it to start like linking to drop shipping schemes where you can buy like a shitty dog leash and then, give them your credit card information. And some of them are outright scams. Others are just like, maybe we can sell 17 baby onesies and make money that way. And then a lot of them are linking out to AI generated content farms. So they're linking out to pages that are heavily monetized with ads. Like you click them and there's like 50 ads that pop up. So there's that. And then there's also a black market for Facebook pages in general, where if you can get 100,000 people or 1 million people to like your Facebook page, you can then go sell it on a marketplace for a few $1,000s. And the people who are doing this are largely in developing countries. One of the few things that Facebook did after the 2016 election was it required you to say where you were operating from. And so a lot of these pages are being operated in Vietnam, Thailand. There's a ton in the Philippines, in Nigeria. And these are places where you don't necessarily need to make thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for it to be like a worthwhile endeavor.
Yeah, and so what's really striking, and this sort of pivots to the business element of it, is, when you talk about all that money that's being made, who's not making a fucking red cent from any of these interactions is Facebook.
I mean, I don't know, because here's the reason why these things are going viral. It's like, first, there's tons of inauthentic bot behavior that's boosting them in the algorithm. But it used to be that if you logged onto Facebook, you would see pages that you liked, and you would see stuff that your friends and family were commenting on. And then you would see like ads that people were paying to boost. And about a year ago, Facebook changed its algorithm to compete with TikTok. It did this specifically on Instagram and Facebook, where the newsfeed is not just pages that you've liked and things that your friends and family are doing. They're doing the whole For You algorithm, like specifically the For You page.
Oh, which everyone loves.
Which everyone loves. And so they're showing you things that are popular like throughout the entire network. And Zuckerberg was on the earnings call a few months ago, and he said that 30% of all posts that people see on Facebook are now surfaced through this recommendation algorithm. And so you have like random people in Ohio being served content that like bots in Brazil are liking. And that would seem...
Come to Brazil, say the boss.
Right.
Just your grandparents getting radicalized, but Brazilian radicalized.
Yeah. My grandparents are really into Bolsonaro now. They're writing him in at the US election. My grandma has a huge ass.
Well, there was just a flood in Brazil. And there was a story like earlier this week about how AI generated images of that flood that include like Jesus and all of these fucked up things that we're talking about are just going massively viral on Facebook. And so the AI is getting topical in a way that is like, I don't know, I'm not a big like Facebook disinformation through the election or whatever guy, but it is the case that now like the current theme of the AI is related to a news event. And I think that is kind of, it's not great.
When I sort of think about like people from Ohio looking at their Facebook, again, when I say people, like septuagenarians from Ohio, specifically, not just any people, looking at their Facebook feeds, and then seeing like, wow, I can't believe that like Jesus came and blocked the floodwaters from this one house in Brazil. It's like a kind of it's like a kind of universal worldwide dancing plague almost, or a universal worldwide internet connected AI enabled series of like almost ecstatic delusions. You get my meaning? Right? Like, this is people who want to see that and want to believe, yeah, hallelujah, he is, Emmanuel, and he's in Brazil.
It's fine. I just didn't expect it to be Brazilian.
Right? That this is not about like, it's not about disinformation or believing things about like certain political parties or whatever at this point. It's just about just a total disconnect with reality.
Are you attached to consensus reality or not?
Yeah, a total disconnect with consensus reality that's being enabled by like these tools just hammering and accelerating a process that was already happening.
Yeah, so on the first article I wrote about this, I had a whole rant that we ended up cutting because it was very mean. But I basically argued that it's like it's the metaverse for like boomers. They're like cosplaying like they're having interactions with people, but really they're just like talking to bots all day. And so it's like an online version of a nursing home where like cooked people are talking to themselves. And it's like,
that's so depressing.
You can go really dark places with this though, because it's like, I've just watched, here is like my favorite, I guess, thing that I've seen. It was an AI generated deck, like a wood deck in someone's backyard. And there were all of these people who were arguing about whether the deck was up to code or not. Like whether the pillars and the planks had been like installed properly. And it's like, this fucking deck does not exist. Like, it doesn't exist. And there are like dozens of people like arguing back and forth about whether or not this deck was up to code. And it's just a lot of that. It's like a lot of wasted time.
I love to give an entire generation a kind of set of jingling keys on the way out, you know?
Well, one of the things that we run across quite a bit in terms of looking at startups, when we want to talk about startups, is it's really popular to be like, hey, hate your grandpa? Cool, so do we. Can't make him walk laps in the garden anymore to raise money for the NHS.
Yeah, because of woke.
Yeah, you can give him an AI to talk to, and then he won't bother you anymore.
Yeah, we've seen like the sort of high legitimacy, so to speak, version of that, which is a bunch of startups that kind of harvest VC funding for like, we're going to put the fucking elderly assistance robot in a care home and it's going to like listen to your like, your grandfather's war stories or whatever. And then here we're at the sort of like lower legitimacy end of that, where it's like your grandpa is going to get fucking radicalized about Lula.
Yeah. My grandfather has bought a motorbike and he's got a new girlfriend who has a suspiciously fat cock. I'm not sure what's going on.
Still have the favela.
Yeah, that's right.
And this is, I think, like the creation of Facebook as a kind of fake social network, right? And there used to be tools that Facebook created.
Shut up before I come back there and slap your profile.
Yeah. No. Oh, sorry. Potemkin social network. How about that one?
Yeah.
Sure.
Shut up before I come back there.
Now, there's tools like CrowdTangle that Facebook, I believe, either built or allowed in on purpose to give marketers more confidence in spending money with them. That would show like, here are the actual people. Here's how they're interacting. Here's how they're going to click on ads if you use our fantastic tracking system to place ads on pages. And you've written about this. Others have written about this as well. Is Facebook has been like turning all that shit off because there are fewer and fewer.
Did they just get bored of running, like being Facebook? Just be like, this shit sucks now. I'm just gonna let it like rewild itself.
It does feel like a rewilding. It's like someone turned off the lights, or at least all the employees left, but the network is it's still on.
See, I understand why this happens with Twitter, right? Which is that, Elon Musk fired everybody for being too woke and is now tearing copper wire out of the walls looking for the cathedral. But like, Mark Zuckerberg is ostensibly still like engaged with Facebook. Is it just that he wants to be doing other stuff and he just doesn't give a fuck about Facebook anymore?
To be serious for a moment, I did a gigantic story about content moderation on Facebook like 5 years ago, where we had these internal documents from Facebook about what their rules were. And these documents were insane and they were very specific. It was like, this is like an exact example. Like, under what circumstances is Facebook going to delete a butthole? is like an actual example. And they were like, well, if the asshole is being used in a political context, such as if you replace Kim Jong-un's eyes with an asshole, that is like a political statement and we will leave it up. But
sort
if
of
you
Rick and Morty cutaway type vibe,
it was crazy, and it was so hyper specific. And we kept publishing these articles, and eventually Facebook emailed us and was like, "Yo, you guys should come to Menlo Park, come to our headquarters, and talk to the people who make these rules, and we will show you how crazy the stuff that we deal with is on a day-to-day basis." And so I went there. And I went to one of their meetings and I sat in on it and I wrote a big article about it. And it was about the Tide Pod challenge where kids were eating Tide Pods. And you had like all of these like PhD people and people who used to work in government, like essentially creating a rule for when are we going to allow children to post videos of themselves eating Tide Pods or whatever. And it's like, it's crazy. Like it's completely crazy. But these people were like they took safety on the platform very seriously. And they were relatively good about detecting and taking stuff down, especially after 2016. And just like Twitter, like Facebook has fired many of these people. There's been like mass layoffs on that team. And Facebook was trying very hard for a while to like create rules, and it fancied itself as like a quasi-government state. It set up that whole like oversight board that was set up like the Supreme Court. And then AI comes around and they just don't care anymore. They don't do anything anymore. I used to screenshot bad things that I saw on Facebook that I was going to write about, just things that obviously violated its rules, like terrorism, extremism, so on and so forth, because Facebook used to detect and delete that stuff. And over the last 6 months, I've stopped screenshotting it. I just save the links because I know Facebook is not going to detect this stuff. Like I was on Facebook last week and I found like 500 different pages just posting hentai, like completely naked anime chicks, like all over, going viral, many of them AI generated. And it's like Facebook has completely stopped trying to police this stuff.
My view is right. And this goes back to what you say in 2022, the TikTokification of every social media network, which is like more algorithmic pushing, less like people actually using it for what they want to use it for, which is to connect with friends or what have you. And this is kind of an arms race or a sort of Thucydides trap between social networks of like, okay, TikTok is rising and they're doing that by being more pushy with stuff and people are interacting with it more and it's more addictive. So we need to make our thing more addictive, which means making it far easier through things like pages as opposed to groups, or by like by just removing every single limit on things being shared, whether that's trust and safety or removing actual. Like it used to be, I think that you could only forward WhatsApps to like 500 people. That's now been taken down, and it's just like at this point,
people's nans needed to send more of the Jesus memes to people.
It used to take down the Indian internet every morning because people would send like 400 megabyte good morning gifts to one another.
Yeah, that's right.
I would love to receive a 400 megabyte good morning gift, to be fully honest.
As someone who's received plenty of them, no, you don't.
The first time would have like a novelty to it, I feel.
Yeah.
So the arms race I'm talking about is just eyes on ads, which Facebook has been having more and more problems doing. I mean, they've been worrying about eyes on ads since like 2006. Like they, ever since their revenue was counted in the millions, this has been something that they're worried about. And you know, you've mentioned a few of the changes that they've made, Jason, which is like just getting more and more involved, basically, in trying to push more content, more connections on you. Whether that's trying to get you to friend more people, whether that's trying to like just tearing down the walls between your network and the rest of the network with the For You feed. All of that, it takes this thing that was at one point useful and in the pursuit of showing you ads has just completely demolished itself as a place where anyone can do anything other than have an argument with a robot about like whether or not a porch is correctly built or jack off, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Facebook has made the calculation that I think will be wrong. I hope will be wrong, but maybe isn't yet. That like any engagement is better than no engagement. And so, you know, it's been putting its own AI into Facebook. And so it's in this difficult situation that it's created for itself, where the platform is being taken over by AI. And Facebook can't say AI is bad, because Facebook, like every other tech platform, is shoving its own AI into every different part of the ecosystem. And so I think that it doesn't want to take a stand against AI generated content because it wants you to use Facebook's own AI on the platform. And I mean, a few weeks ago, Facebook integrated AI into a lot of different groups on the site. So if you post something in a Facebook group that has this enabled and someone doesn't respond within an hour, Facebook's AI will just respond to you. And I think that it's like,
Yeah.
I think it is that arguing with a robot thing where it's like, you have all these people who don't have anything better to do with their time and who are just endlessly scrolling Facebook because I guess, I don't know, that they haven't moved on to Twitter or something. And they post something, and if they don't get a response, maybe they're going to leave the platform. Like maybe they won't check the platform again that day. But if a robot responds to them, they'll log back on and they'll see another ad or another 15 ads.
Oh, that's really sad.
Look, Facebook's Brazilian AI is actually my best friend. We're constantly doing wall posts for each other, FIFA apologies, and it's certainly controla minha bunda.
What if the Facebook AI that responds to you ends up falling in love with like one of those pussy in bio AIs? Has anyone like considered what happens then?
Oh my God, that's good. That's good.
A beautiful love story of our time. I just think that the idea of like, oh, compute is basically free to me. Therefore, I'm just going to keep everyone involved by having them send 400 megabyte good morning gifts to a robot every time that they're like talked to.
If this was like 2011, we would get a movie where it's like it's all animation, but like the voice actors are surprisingly famous, where Crab Jesus falls in love with a pussy in bio girl. It'd be like the Emoji Movie all over again.
Basically,
Chris Pratt is Crab Jesus.
Like Jerry Seinfeld is in it for some reason.
I think it could still happen. That's my fear. Like my thinking is number one, that it could still happen. Number two, if it hasn't happened, someone do that and also let me in the writer's room. I've got some ideas.
I Weiwei voices AI Weiwei.
Yeah, Zendaya is the pussy in bio.
Just in character as Chaney from Dune. But I think what we're looking at, right? It's a company that from first principles has walked backwards into creating what is essentially a mass spam network by prioritizing just as much posting as possible to as many eyes as possible, addiction, and stare at the platform at all costs while hemorrhaging actual users and like causing the elderly to become deranged with Brazilian bots, just so that it can keep this valuation that is increasingly looking like, why? Who is paying the money? No one's paying the money for the fucking Oculus Rift. The metaverse was a bust. It's actually dead.
The metaverse was a bust because it didn't have huge Brazilian asses in it. That was the problem.
All that's left are like the old and vulnerable and scammable, and Facebook has looked at that population and said, all right, I guess that's who we've got, I suppose.
It's so funny as well that while all of this is happening, you're like, what's Mark up to? What's that guy doing? And
He's
the
just
answer
doing
is
jujitsu.
yeah, is like that posting a video of himself on Instagram, like throwing like an assegai across a field into a target with his perfect dead eyes. And I'm like, I don't know that any of this is healthy.
He's ready for the war with the machines.
That's true. That is true. Like, I think should Ayla be right, and like, you know, we should all start smoking and like having casual sex and everything because the AIs are gonna like come and try and enslave us in 5 and 10 years. Like, place yourself under the command of Mark Zuckerberg, right? Because that man has been training.
Yeah, he would never come in a fluffer. He always busts in Ayala.
That's a call forward to this week's bonus episode. Yeah, in a couple days. Anyway, I think if you look at what Facebook is now, I think it's a perfect example of what happens when you let these people like the people running Facebook, the people, but abiding by the logic of the market of the business they're in, which is ad sales, when you let them just run their fucking business into the ground. I think this is just what it will keep becoming. We see other social networks becoming this as well. The whole thing, when confronted with reality, when confronted with the fact that maybe, just maybe, what is essentially a gigantic, very effective captive advertising company, probably shouldn't be the most valuable firm in the world or one of the most valuable firms in the world. And, you know, you end up inevitably, it all converges on porn bots, basically, I think.
I think that this is the future of many social platforms. It's like Facebook has been around longer and has more people on it than all these other platforms. And one thing that I saw is that a lot of the bots that are commenting on these things used to be real people. As in, like, if you scroll back a few years, it's like they were people who were interacting with their friends and families. And the accounts got hacked at some point. Like the accounts were hacked at some point. And so you have these accounts that like used to be regular people's accounts and are now just being used to promote Brazilian disinfo or whatever, which is interesting. But then I think also, and this is dark, but it's like a lot of the people are dead also.
I was going to say.
Like Facebook has always catered to older people once it opens to the general public. You have these people who were 70 when they joined Facebook 20 years ago, and they've been dead for 10 years, but their accounts haven't been deleted. They've just been taken over. And it's very hard to tell, like, who is a living, breathing human, like, on these platforms now.
So what you're saying is we're talking less about a kind of dead internet theory, more about a kind of zombie internet theory.
My Gam lives on. It's Crab Jesus.
Yeah.
Praise the new flesh.
One of my schoolmates, this happened to one of my schoolmates. Like, I don't know, but his Facebook account got hacked and he wasn't able to recover it. And so every time I sort of go, and I go on very rarely, but like when I've gone on like a few months ago and I went onto his account, it just says, for the past 2 years, all it said is sex. Every day it posts sex.
I can't imagine,
awesome.
like, if someone dies, right? Like say, like your mum dies, God forbid, and then you log on and you see like your dead mum's profile posting like pussy in bio.
Well, because Facebook did the thing of like remembering so and so, right? Like that it instituted that when the first problem of like, oh yeah, people die and like their platforms never get deleted and Facebook doesn't do anything about it. So they instituted that thing. But now that like the bots have sort of taken over, and again, like, you know, there is less people calling out because fewer people use Facebook now. You end up having these like remembering so and so accounts that just sort of do ads. Which is kind of also like a cool.
One thing your dad enjoyed was an ice cold Bud Light.
I mean, it's just like weird ads for like just like cheap consumer products or dodgy lawyers.
My coffin is lowered into the earth, and from the bowels of the earth, a voice echoes up, "Ladies, get the best vibrator here."
Yeah. Actually, this could be like an A24 movie, like a son who's so grief-stricken that when his mother's Facebook account starts posting "my pussy in bio," he clicks the link just because he has to check. He has to know.
That's how Silent Hill 2 starts. Listen, if I die, just remember me as I lived, and remember many of my classic phrases like "meine Nacktfotos im Profil," or my sort of rabid hatred for Lula and like support for Bolsonaro.
Yeah, it's like I remember November so well. She always knew where to get a great deal on authentic Ray-Bans. anyway, I think that deriving what is essentially a horror movie premise from the corporate structure of Facebook is as good a place as any to leave it. Jason, thank you so much for coming and talking about your work with us today. I've had a blast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And if you haven't been on Facebook recently, you should go check it out. It's pretty dark.
Are you plugging Facebook?
Yeah, this whole thing was paid for by Facebook. Yes.
Yeah.
You do need like a .edu account to check it out. But
You know what else you should check out is the 404 Media podcast.
And that's right.
Also, of course, overthrowing the Brazilian government.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. We're going to do January 9th again.
I'm
just
going to
joking,
have such an interesting time at customs if I ever go to Brazil because of this specific podcast.
and also, don't forget, because we'll just do the outro with all of us here. Once you've checked out 404 Media, the 404 Media podcast, don't forget to check out, if you are in Scotland, our Edinburgh show on the 14th of August.
Yeah, where our guest will be Crab Jesus and also Jair Bolsonaro.
I mean, what a get, honestly. And so we're going to be doing that. Milo's got his website, which has a bunch of tour shows on it. You can check those out if you're interested.
So many of those.
Why not? What are you doing on June 5th that's so important that you can't go see Milo?
Yeah. Answer me that.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think, hey, my podcast co-host drew this self-portrait. Buy a ticket if you're proud of him.
That's right. I am quintiplegic.
Yeah. So we will see him there, see you in Edinburgh, or we will just see you tomorrow if you're one of the lucky people who bought a ticket to the live show in London, which is, I believe, sold out unless we've managed to release more tickets.
Sold out.
If we can't release more tickets, it will stay sold out. Anyway, we will see you at any and all of those times. So Jason, thank you once again, and goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.